Hailing frequencies open, and welcome to Star Trek Discoverage, the live podcast that boldly goes into excruciating detail about this week's episode of Star Trek Picard. I'm your host, Aaron Coker, aka Caliban, and believe me is not an anagram for betrayal, but lit brush is an anagram for bullshit. Joining me on the show, as usual, is my co-host. She's also the co-host of the Generations Geek podcast, a more or less family-friendly celebration of geekdom. It's Ella Pearson. Ella, welcome back to Discoverage.
Thank you.
It is great to be back, and it's good to see you. How was your week?
You know, I'll be honest with you and the people.
Yeah.
And say that I did get food poisoning for the first time in my life last weekend.
Okay, all right. Well, we live in the same city, so it'd be okay to tell me where you got it from.
Look out. Well, I'll just say, I'm not just coming out the back end, but I was coming out the front. That's what I'm going to say. So not too gross. I don't know about gross levels, but for me, the throwing up isn't it. Anyways.
Okay.
There was a lot. I was very humbled. Let's say the least.
Humbled.
That's really what humbled. That's how I felt. Humbled.
It sounds humbling, but yeah.
It was.
Just to avoid anything legally actionable, just tell me off air so I can avoid.
I will. There's a couple of culprits.
Okay.
But so that's where we're at. Feeling just sponsored by sugar-free Gatorade this week.
Okay. Nice. Sure. I can see that. A little cheaper than the Pedialyte, but just as effective. I like it.
Exactly. Also, because of I'm not feeling well, I didn't bother to put on makeup to counteract my French lighting.
Sure.
I see almost no difference.
Sure. Okay. So
whenever I'm doing it,
you look great. in your hazy colored past that you exist in. The year 2024. Let's talk about news in the world of Star Trek, as we usually do at this point in the show. Not a lot of news this week, but I did want to mention that there is a new remaster, a high-definition 4K restoration of Star Trek The Motion Picture that will be landing on Paramount Plus, the service, on April 5th of 2022. That is, of course...
That's exciting.
Yeah, First Contact Day. And so, yeah, that is exciting. Just watched it recently. I have a pretty upscale Blu-ray. I don't know which one it is. A couple years ago, or was it just a little while ago, they released a new package that had the first four, I think it was last year, the first four Star Trek movies in a 4K HDR remaster, which is cool. Somebody who understands intellectual property rights better than me could explain why they only did the first four. Like, why did they skip 5? I mean, I understand why some people might skip 5, and then not 6. Why not all the TOS films? But anyway, it's those first 4, all looking wonderful and all 4K now.
Can I say something?
Mm-hmm.
Am I allowed to speak on this show that we do? I don't care about restorations that much.
Okay.
Do you get excited when they're like, we made the Enterprise CGI, and now when you watch the original series on Netflix, you don't get the joy of watching the little miniature go across the screen.
Well,
you know what I mean?
I don't love the new effects of remasters, like the TOS remasters and that sort of thing. But as far as like old films go, you as a film student know that film quality degrades, and we have computers now that can restore the look of things. And if you're going to watch the motion picture, you're really there for the visuals, period, right? Like, that's like pretty much the only thing there is to get like out of it. So I mean, for that reason, it's cool. I'm not like a real collector, and so I'm not the person that's like, oh, I got to get like the 11th version of The Evil Dead or something like that. That's now in 8K. But for collectors, this is kind of a big deal. And definitely, if they were going to remaster First Contact, what are you really getting out of it? But those original 70s and 80s Star Trek films, I think it's kind of cool.
It's definitely cool. I like when it does like actually look sort of better, you know what I mean? But I don't like when it gets a little like, you can tell that it was like tweaked, or like I remember when I went to watch the original series on Netflix after they put the like remastered ones on there, and I was like, oh, so it's just CGI in between here now. But again, it is fun. I bought a Blu-ray player from Goodwill one time for $5. Works like a charm.
Wow.
And I know. And I already had a Blu-ray, because you know how they sell like special like DVD Blu-ray packs together, and it's like, well, I want the special thing that comes with the Blu-ray, but it also comes. So I had a Blu-ray of one of the new Alien movies. Don't judge me.
Okay.
And I put it in, and I was like, this looks great. But I also was like, I don't think I would have ever noticed. I don't think I would have ever been like, I can't see enough pores. But I do like when those really, I mean, like you said, the really old movies that they restore, that is pretty cool. Because like you said, the degradation of the film makes a big difference. But
yeah, and at some point, you know, like my screen, like my TV isn't even good enough to show me the difference. If my human eyes could even tell the difference. Yeah. I have it's the at this point it was the quadrology, the Alien Blu-ray quadrology of the first 4 films.
Ooh.
I think before Ridley Scott started making new ones, and that's like high quality Blu-ray, and that looks like 1979's Alien looks great on that. So
yeah, I would love to watch that on Blu-ray. That sounds sick.
If you told me that like we rubbed like alien juice all over this, you know, print, and now looks even better, I guess I'd have to, you know, see it with my own eyes. But now, funnily enough, we're talking mostly about physical media. There has been no announcement about a physical release for this version of the film yet. So presumably it'll happen soon, but for now it's only on Paramount Plus.
Doesn't that kind of annoy you? I'm like, because like you said, it's like you're doing it for collectors, kind of.
Yeah.
And then you can't, like, I just watched The Adam Project on Netflix.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Which I thought was actually, I thought it was a very good, enjoyable movie. I think a lot of Star Trek fans would really like it. But I was like, I want to buy the DVD.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Yeah. Because if I guess I'm just like, I'm the daughter of I was raised by someone who is a collector, and now I have the gene. And so I'm like, if I love something, I want the copy of it. I want to have it forever.
Sure. Well, now that print is dead, I think the next thing to follow is just all media, right? So, I agree. Like from a collecting standpoint, you want it, but why not release it directly to the fans? That's what we've got now with our digital future. So
that's weird.
I don't know. We'll see.
You know, a lot of people be like, to me, for years, people have been like this to me. They'll be like, it's so weird that your parents have CDs. And I'm like, okay, I don't think we're in a futuristic enough year for people to be saying that to me yet, but they say it.
I'm not even a vinyl guy, and I've got like 2 boxes full of vinyl records, like just because I've got them. So yeah, I'm sure you do too. So, but we'll see. We're not there yet. We're not at the future where we don't need anything. We can replicate whatever we want. But someday maybe we'll get there. I wanted to say that we also had a couple birthdays in this last week, and one of them was the big man himself, William Shatner, who turned 91 this last Tuesday.
Wow, I did not realize he was that old.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
He's pretty spry for a 91-year-old man.
Yeah. Whatever his secret is, riding horses, shooting at bows and arrows, I don't know what it is. But horses. Yeah, he's definitely looking great and still with us. And then today, it is Tig Notaro's birthday. Tig Notaro turned 51 today.
Tig, you think she's watching the stream for her birthday?
This stream, I hope she is. Happy birthday, Tig.
I bet. Yeah.
She was just here in town doing a show on her tour, and I didn't get to see it, but because we were actually working.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was a Thursday, so we were working. But
But
yeah, she's doing great. You know, she's got 2 young little babies now, and having a good life. After, of course, you know, famously, a lot of bad things happened in her life. Almost 10 years ago now, but doing great, doing a great job on Discovery. And when we're gonna get that spinoff, I don't know. I'd watch the Jet Reno show for sure.
Even just for the name.
The Jet Reno show.
Reno.
Yeah,
Solid.
it's a variety show. Yeah, it's a panel show in the Star Trek universe. I'm waiting to see that.
It's a talk show.
Yeah, and her deadpan delivery.
It's a talk show. Oh, it's like coming to you live from Rise Up.
Yeah, live from Rise Up.
Jet Reno.
Hey everybody, I'm Jet Reno. I've got some guests, I guess. Yeah. So looking forward to that.
But it's Jet Reno, but she does the stool bit. You know, Tig's stool joke.
Sure.
Where she just keeps pushing it.
Yeah. She just because she's known for her physical comedy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we've just seen the 4th episode of the 2nd season of Star Trek Picard. It's an episode called Watcher, and we're here to talk all about it. But first, as always, we're setting a course for the spoiler zone listeners, so be warned, we are glad that you have decided to join us, but spoilers are incoming. The official synopsis for Watcher is, with time running out to save the future, Picard takes matters into his own hands and seeks out an old friend for help. Meanwhile, Rios ends up on the wrong side of the law, and Jurati makes a deal with the Borg Queen. This episode's teleplay was written by Juliana James and Jane Maggs, and the story is by Travis Fickett and Juliana James. This episode, like last week's episode, is directed by Leah Thompson. Again, the date for the episode is 2024, just 2 years in the future, our future. This episode features a couple different guest stars, but first it features the return of Orla Brady in the role of the Watcher, and also John Delancey as Q? Question mark, I guess. Here's a Q for you. Is he still Q? We'll find out later. Also, Madeline Wise returns as Yvette Picard. We are introduced to Itu Agahire as Guinan, or young Guinan tonight, and Penelope Mitchell as Renee Picard, and we will talk about that in a little bit. What else? Oh, and then, of course, I have to mention Kirk Thatcher makes his return to the Star Trek franchise as Guy on the Bus with a boombox. Did you ever think it would happen?
No, and it was it was the same guy, right?
That's what I am told. Yes, speaking of looking great, he looks great. I know he's
looks
all
exactly the same.
Got the. I'm sure it's a wig and a mohawk and everything, but yeah, he looks really good.
So do you think that is the guy that was on the
He's listed on
character?
Yeah, and I saw some Instagram behind the scenes pictures. Yeah, it's him.
Can you believe that we called that?
Yeah, we
were like joking about that.
Yeah, yeah.
Not like we thought it would happen.
Apparently, the writers' room.
We're like guy with the boombox, right?
Am
I right?
Yeah, yeah. But I was looking into him a while ago, and he's an interesting guy. He was a producer on that film. He's also kind of a producer. He's a puppeteer, and of course an actor and a performer. And he was in weirdly he was in Spider-Man, the first one, Spider-Man Homecoming, or whichever the first one was, the Tom Holland one.
Wait. Oh.
Yeah, there's that scene where Spidey's cruising around and they're playing the Ramones, and then the guy's like, "Do a flip," and he does a flip. And next to the do a flip guy, is a guy with a beard and probably a boombox, and that's Kirk Thatcher. Yeah.
That is so funny.
You can hire him to show up in your project with a boombox.
And I wish he would.
Yeah, they remake the Ten Commandments.
Next week he'll be behind me on the screen. Yeah. I'll be like,
yeah,
can you
be behind you. Yeah, yeah.
Can you? I'm trying to do something.
Yeah, I've got Barry Allen. You'll have Kirk Thatcher. What else? Just some trivia. We'll talk about this stuff, I guess, in a little bit. But so there's no. We see Guinan, of course. Well, let's save our Guinan talk. We do see that there is a lot of references. Well, we'll talk about these two. This is a crappy trivia bit. I apologize. But there are a lot of references I'm sure we'll get to. Here's one we might not get to. That's why I wanted to bring it up. When Rafi and Seven are stealing the police car, and she's driving, or she's going to drive, and she says, "You can't pilot a starship, or you can pilot a starship, but you can't drive a car." It's very similar to what Archer and T'Pol say to each other in the Enterprise episode Carpenter Street when they go back to the early 21st century. And are doing their kind of X-Files episode, and they have to steal a car. So,
I love T'Pol.
Me too.
Comedy gold.
She's got to show up in one of these feature shows, right?
I'll pass out.
Let's dive. Yeah, I say we do it. Let's dive in. What'd you think about Watcher?
I liked it. I thought it felt a little bit long.
Oh, it was ironically short. It was the shortest episode.
Yeah, I know,
so far.
Right?
Yeah.
I had to pause it to go pee, and I was like, this episode is taking ages. And then I was like 30 minutes in, and I was like, okay, so maybe that's a me problem.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'm just used to them going like a million miles an hour every episode, and now we have like a normal paced episode, and I'm like, this is taking forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was interesting. I guess I don't really have any big thoughts about the episode overall either way.
Okay. I have some that I'll share.
I was going to say that it'll make for a good episode. Just nothing to say.
Yeah, well, no, don't worry about it. Boy, this is the first episode of Picard that I was like, okay, now I see the problems, inherent in producing TV. We've talked before on this podcast about how really in the world of streaming, your first 3 episodes are kind of your pilot now, right? So whether they're 40 or 50 minutes, you're kind of doing like a movie or a feature. And then when you pick up from there, that's sort of like the first 6 episodes in broadcast TV. And this is the first episode that for me felt, something major happens. We meet young Guinan. We find out that Orla Brady's still hanging around. And we kind of push things forward. But a lot of it felt like, let's just, we got to kind of burn 45 minutes here to sort of get to the next link of the story. And in the meantime, like, we can just fill that in with like fun references. And normally that, I think, works. But I felt like a lot of the dialogue was not as snappy as it's been in the past 3 hours. And a lot of there were like whole sections, and now we can talk about the Guinan thing. The Guinan thing confused the hell out of me, and it should have been the most simple thing. Not only because many, many times have we seen Picard go to Guinan, we've literally seen him go to Guinan when he is displaced in time or reality. 3 times that I can think about before this. And yet it took me forever to like understand that this was supposed to be Guinan, like young Guinan. And we peg that he thinks that she's the Watcher, but other than her time sickness awareness powers, I didn't understand why he knew that he needed her so bad. And for somebody, and I assume it's all Trek fans watching this, but for somebody who is not familiar with Yesterday's Enterprise or Time Zero or any of the things that we've talked about before, I don't know why they didn't spend a lot of time explaining why he would know or why she is important. Do you know what I mean? Like, she's important because in Time Zero, she's important because she's an alien and she has access to Mark Twain, I guess. That's why she's important. So she has status. And in Yesterday's Enterprise, she's important because she's got Doctor Who time sense where she knows that the timeline's wrong. But none of that is really explained for a viewer who really liked the first season of Star Trek Picard but doesn't really know the history of Trek. And it just felt like I was catching up, and I've seen all these episodes. So I thought that was a little strange.
I guess I was just like, he's looking for somebody special. He's looking for the Watcher. He ends up on Forward Street, and the
right.
bar is called 10 or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, of course. I was like, of course we need Guinan.
Right. And he was there in the first episode. Right. So it sort of like mirrors it. But then
it didn't feel, I guess, to me like a huge jump, although I think it is a good point that if you weren't super into, like, if you didn't know much about their history, that you wouldn't be like, just be like me and be like, oh, of course we need Guinan.
Yeah.
Get Guinan.
And then he walks in,
it's more Pitbulls on the show.
And it's a play by a different actress, which I guess it's understandable. But he kind of calls her Guinan, but he doesn't make a big deal out of it. And there was just, normally I don't ask for a show to talk down to me, but I felt like if you're going to introduce this brand new actress and like version of a character, like we need like a thing where she's like something that signifies, she says something that Guinan always says, or we kind of know, because at some point he says El-Orion, and that kind of is the coupon that gets us like to the next part. But then I don't know. I mean, I guess I get it. She's disillusioned with Earth. She's, of course she is. She's a small business owner and her business is closed. But like, and then all of it, like, I hope she comes back, but it almost just seemed like, okay, I did put my time in, and now we're going to hand you off to this other character who's a regular on the show. And so it felt like a lot of, I don't know. I don't want to say wasted opportunity. It just kind of slid off me. It didn't like really get its hooks in me the way that I assume that they're hoping that it would. So I was a little disappointed at that. Here's something else. Trek is just kind of like eating itself at this point, isn't it? Like, if they're going to go back in time in a stolen ship, okay, obviously Star Trek 4 is your touchstone for that. But they're literally, parking the ship on the ground and cloaking it. Kirk Thatcher shows up. If they look for whales, I don't know, we riot. I don't know what I'm going to do. And at some point, like they're just like, I guess they're like references, but at the same time, it's just like you're just literally doing these beats. You know, Rios gets hit in the head; he's got to go to a hospital, like Chekhov, and yeah, I don't know. Like this is, I feel like this is like live action Lower Decks sometimes, or it has become that with some of its with its references.
The references.
Yeah. Although I did like,
yeah, I did.
I did like just sorry, well, just one sec. I did like when Rios was just like, "You want to know what it is? I'm Captain Lampshade, and here's what it is. I've come back through time, and I'm the captain of a starship, and I've got to find all my goofy friends who are all over the place. And we, you know, there's an alien queen that wants to eat everybody. So, you know, what are you gonna do now? Deport you, I guess."
I thought he was playing the long game. I was like, is he trying to get the dude to send him to the loony bin instead of deport him?
I don't know.
Which I'm like, by the time that you're in the ice, like dogfighting cage, right? It's like I you're already you're gone. You're leaving the country. But I was gonna say that I did think the Kirk Thatcher bit. I was like shocked that they did it. I was like, oh, and it's the same guy with the boombox,
right? And that's another
full bit.
That's another thing where I felt like it wasn't set up quite right. Again, maybe I just missed it, but his reaction makes sense when you realize that it is the exact same guy. And 30 years ago or more, he got his ass kicked on a bus for playing the music too loud. Now, I would have assumed that that means that he would never play music too loud again on a bus, but apparently he's built up the courage to do it over the last 35 years or so. And then as soon as he does it, a mean-looking lady's like, "Turn that off." And he's like, "No, I got it. No, keep that away from me." Yeah. I did see, so I saw a lot of stuff online, just on forums and Facebook, people talking about like, well, why doesn't like Guinan know who Picard is at this point in her timeline? She's already hung out with him and Mark Twain. And I was like, yeah, right, that makes sense. But then like Terry Matalas, the showrunner, and we've learned from the last season of Picard, it's kind of bad news if you have to go on the internet to explain your show, but he did explain, no, see, because of the alternate timeline, which the cause hasn't happened yet, but the effect travels backwards, and so he never showed up. You know, there is no Data's head in a cave. Like, all that stuff never happened. And I'm like, I guess meme. I'm like, you know, I suppose that explains that, but it sort of messes with, I don't know, it's disappointing. I would have liked to have seen her welcome him or go like, "You're that weirdo who was... hanging out with Jack London, you know, back in San Francisco."
That would have been funny. I guess I just assume when any movie or TV show does an alternate timeline, I just throw everything out the way. I'm like, okay, here's everything I know about the history of this, and then I'm gonna put it up like it's going in the garbage, right?
Yeah.
So I was just like, Guinan's young. She's got sick hair. She doesn't know Picard.
Yeah. And that's the way that I'm sure you have to treat it. Like when you sit down to write a script, you can't take everything into account. But I mean, like, if you take that on a long enough timeline, then if he never, what happens to the 24th century if he never stops the Ophidians, you know, back in San Francisco? Would that never lead to Jean-Luc Picard becoming an old man with a robot body who meets Q that time and gets sent back to be here in the first place? You know what I mean? That's the reason that I liked the Marvel explanation in Endgame, you know, Hulk's whole thing about your future becomes your past, and then it can't affect your new future, and how everything, whoever you are, you just keep going in a straight line, you know, wherever you are. But this is all, you know, sci-fi sophistry, but this is the kind of thing we like to talk about, I guess. Here's something we can talk about. Apparently, Nazis used Chateau Picard for a base during World War II. Wow,
that's wild.
Yeah, that's like, some weird. That's some new info. But they did have, but they've got tunnels under the house or something like that. That's kind of cool. My girlfriend pointed out I missed this when they're looking around. You know, Star Trek has a long tradition of weird future flashlights, but his flashlight had 4 lights, and I thought that was pretty good.
Wait, what's the bit?
His flashlight had 4. It was like 4 little flashlights put together. It's 4 lights. There are 4 lights.
Oh.
Yeah. So anyway,
I didn't. I was like, I did see the flashlight, and I was like, future flashlight, but I didn't put I didn't put 2 and 2 together.
Well, 2 and 2, it does equal 5. We know that. In this alternate timeline. What else was happening in the episode? We get another flash, just a weird flash of whatever it is that happens to Yvette. Still, they're keeping that pretty close to the vest. They're
Nothing
keeping that
good,
kind
right?
of cagey. Yes, something good, something bad. Yeah.
Ooh.
And speaking of the Picard family, so, okay, here we go. In the epilogue of this episode, we see a young woman reading a book. It's looks like a Dixon Hill mystery, right? It's written by Tracy Torme. And we see Q narrating like a weirdo. Imagine you're sitting in a park minding your business and some guy's like, and she sat there and she thought, what is in my future? And like, you're just like, oh, and she's getting up. She's walking. She's talking to a cop. Like, and I don't know how we're supposed to know this, but apparently that is Renee Picard. That is Picard's great ancestor, cousin or something like that, much removed, who is working on this Project Europa, and she's probably involved in the split or whatever. But like, find a way to give us that information. Why are we watching Q stalk this lady and we don't know who she is? Like, who is this person?
Well, maybe it's I was just assumed, I was like, oh, we're going to find out later, you know? I was like, cliffhanger.
On a long enough timeline, we're going to find out everything. But like, I don't want to just kill 10 hours until they just go, here's what happened, you know? So
you don't?
So anyway, like, you know, that's interesting. Like, you know, when it's funny because like he talks about how his ancestors have been, you know, military leaders or explorers. And we forget that like people that work at JPL, you know, people who are data scientists are our explorers right now. And so I think it's cool that she's not, I think, you know, if this was done around the time of Enterprise or Voyager, she'd definitely be like Phil Morris, you know, in an astronaut costume, you know, going out there. But instead, like I'm guessing, maybe she's going to get in a ship and go to Europe. I don't know. But I'm guessing that she's like a scientist. And I think that that's cool. They are also explorers.
Oh, it's super cool because they're, you know, well, like you said right now, it's like they're the ones doing the work.
Yeah.
Just because they got their friggin' boots on the ground.
What do you think about, okay, the show is going hard. Like it is wearing its heart on its sleeve in terms of the, you know, what ICE does to immigrants. And there is no, these aren't aliens in weird costumes. These are like human beings. This happens. This is real. So they are really trying to make a point about that. What do you think, or where do you think that they are going to go as far as, you know, we've talked about how this is set in 2024. They've name dropped like a sanctuary district, but, you know, all the tents that we've seen could just be, unfortunately, you know, modern tent cities in major cities. But how do you think they're going to, if they are, integrate what we know about the world we've seen in past tense with this? Or are they going to kind of like retcon this?
I think it depends, right? Because I guess I've been watching it unsure whether I'm supposed to believe that this is Earth right before we took the turn, or I guess we are supposed to assume that it's Earth right before we turn towards like Starfleet and exploration and trusting science.
Well, there's supposed to be a nuclear war. They haven't really, they keep kind of pushing that up, you know, but they haven't retconned that out yet. Maybe the end of Picard season 2 will be the effect of things will still get bad, but it'll look different than, you know, much better, you know, the drug armies and everything that we see, you know, in Encounter in Farpoint. Because I was a little surprised. Like, it's cool that like Picard goes to 10 forward in the 25th century and then he goes to it in the 21st century. But I was like, this must be like a nuclear war. Like LA will definitely get wiped off the map in this war, right? All this real estate is still here. That's like, wow, it's a lot of value.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I was kind of waiting for them to really like hammer the point home, because I feel like it's clear that they're saying like this isn't this, like really what they're showing us is like 2 steps away from where we are right now. It's not very different from where we're, like you said, it could be a tent city anywhere. It could be a tent city in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
And so I think they're waiting to do the, you know, the trust science, all
Trust
that
science. Yeah.
all the liberal all that liberal nonsense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I was waiting to see if they would go a little bit deeper with it, because I think it's easy. Not that it was. I don't want to come off like I'm like, you guys aren't doing enough, because I think it's great. They're doing a lot. They're like, let's go to the 21st century as instead, and be like, look at ICE. That's what they're doing. The chain link fences in the warehouse. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Which is great. But I am waiting to see if there's something bigger than them being like, you have to believe in climate change, which I mean, I'm not saying that's a small thing, but it is, what we hear every day. So I'm curious to see where they go. I guess I'm not sure where they're going with it. I'm glad they're doing it. I don't know.
I'm trying to think of all the times that they went to the 20th or the 21st century in like Berman Trek, or even in TOS, and how they could incorporate some of that stuff. Because at this point, like, I don't know if it's finished, but they should already be working on the Millennium Dome in Indiana or whatever. And if they'll try. So far, it seems like, we're over 20 years into the 21st century, and they're not trying to like future up, the past at all. And of course, to the 1960s, like we're talking on a space internet machine right now, we do live in the future, but it isn't like every time that Star Trek writers try to imagine something, it's always like too big, and it isn't just like a phone in your pocket, or your TV's smaller. And so I wonder if they're maybe trying to be, if we'll see any sci-fi stuff at all, like I'd love it if Ed Begley Jr. showed up, but I don't think that like something like that's really going to happen.
I would almost be more intrigued to see something more about like the way Earth turns from this to like the no money utopia that we're used to seeing them talk about in Star Trek. Like I would love them to be like, oh, actually, Seven isn't the president of the Confederation, but like here's the person.
Seven becomes president of Earth in our time.
She stays in Earth.
Runs for
she
president.
becomes president.
Yeah.
She founded Starfleet Academy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point, because every time they do it, they always have to come back and go, and you brought it up. You're the one that mentioned like that sort of like liberal mindset. They always come back and go, whew, gosh, it's really bad. I'm glad it got better. And like,
can you imagine?
Oh boy,
like
how did it get so bad? Yeah, and like,
what did they do?
We like the fact that Star Trek gives us, this ideal to reach for. I think that's important. But I think that as like activism grows and people become more aware, I'm trying not to use the word woke, but it just fits now. Like become more woke. I think we want to see our fiction be more proactive as well. Be more prescriptive, instead of just allegorical. And so I'm sure
what I was thinking about?
What?
Sorry, I was thinking about Chekhov.
Yeah.
In TOS, because tensions were so high between Russia and the US.
Yeah, right.
They got this young Chekhov, and I was kind of sitting here and I was like, we need to like they have to
a new Russian character? Yeah. Although he's half Russian, half Ukraine, because that's how it works. Once a war is over, then everybody just boom, boom, boom.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, they're right there.
A third alien thrown in for fun. But the point that I was getting to was that like I would love to see them do something that is like proactive to kind of change something. Now, they talked about butterflies. Maybe they can't, but I think that it's sad, and it's a sad limitation of sci-fi that they have to go, it's a show made now about now, and our future characters have to go, boy, that sucks for you guys. Well, anyway, back to our free hot fudge sundae future, and there's just nothing that they can do, like I guess I don't know.
I would love to see.
Help us, help us, Picard.
Well, exactly, and it's like they always talk about like, oh, everything's perfect in the future because of this happened, or like there's no money, everyone just whatever. And it's like I would love to be able to see somebody like even in like the last episode, even just like almost a throwaway scene where you see like a politician on the TV saying, we're abolishing, like, everyone's going to be paid this amount every year
Yes.
for existing.
Seven
right?
Seven fixes the wage gap. Like, she takes care of that. Done.
Seven says minimum wage, never heard of her.
Yeah. And then
$100,000 100,000 units a year.
And then Elon Musk is on stage with a guy dressed up as a robot dancing, and then Seven just, and she just disintegrates Elon Musk.
I was gonna say.
And then for good measure, she disintegrates Adam McKay too, because that's a terrible movie. That's a terrible movie he made.
I was gonna say like a phaser blade guillotine.
Wait a minute. How did they get to this dark timeline again? How did they get there?
Who's knocking on my door?
We talked about how maybe they caused this timeline. Maybe it's them going back and messing with something, trying to fix something. And again, that would be doubling down on the fatalism that if Seven does disintegrate and parody satire in Minecraft, Elon Musk, maybe it leads to phaser guillotines and Extermination Day.
I gotta mute the Alexa while we're doing this show.
You can't trace any. I'm running this through 6 VPNs. No one can trace any of those.
Perfect. Except I revealed our location.
What? Yeah, right. And that restaurant too. What do you think is going on with Orla Brady? Is she the Watcher? What is the Watcher? What is this stuff? What's going on?
I kind of assumed that it's a different person that just like has her face on.
Has her look, yeah.
Yeah, like
another Q.
A Q, a changeling, something that's like above my pay grade.
Okay.
I mean, I guess because I was just assuming that our, is it Varys?
Yes.
That she's not our Laris.
Yeah.
Assuming that she's not our Laris, because that, if the timelines are lining up and whatever, I don't really know, time stuff. Assuming that Laris in our main timeline is not some kind of celestial agent.
Yeah.
Like
assuming.
TVA.
Right.
Like leader, right? Like, I don't think so. I don't know. I was kind of like, to be honest, I didn't really recognize her. I was like, that lady. and then he said Laris, and I was like, oh.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, she looked normal, right? She didn't have the ears and everything, and so.
I don't think so.
The only thing I could think of, I mean, it is time travel, and she sort of like takes him through a door, or it looks like, or like there's this sort of form that kind of goes.
Yeah.
And it was all smoky, and I was thinking, if they make it like a donut shape, it's too close. So maybe this is like, the Guardian of Forever. A Guardian is a Watcher. But they're trying not to tip their hand too soon, or this is like another Guardian.
In the future, when she leaves Chateau Picard, she becomes a Section 31 agent.
Oh, Section 31?
Yeah. Is this time, guys, right?
Well, you've got 400 years to play with. Yeah, well, do they travel in time? I guess.
I thought so.
I wouldn't I would put nothing past them. But like, so I don't know, like, it's time travel. I thought like maybe the Guardian of Forever, but they just did that in Discovery. Well, not just did, but they did it previously. So, I don't know. Who else travels in time? Where's Max Headroom? Is that guy still around? Remember the guy from the TNG episode?
Who else can just say, what, Kirk slingshot the Enterprise around the sun more than one time? We can do it.
Right.
I can do that.
I just get on my 10 speed, fast enough and come right back in time. There is, of course, the Chronal Protection Agency or whatever. There's the time ships from the 29th century. So, there are time travel. The thing about time travel, though, is like, just because we don't have time travel now doesn't mean that there isn't time travel in the future. And they exploited that in, Enterprise and that Max Headroom episode of TNG. And so you could just have somebody come back from the 40th century or something like that and be messing around with stuff. I think what's important and what I always think about is how does it relate to the story they're trying to tell? And, specifically in Enterprise, the 29th century people, I think it's 29th, or is it 27th? I can't remember. the future people were having like a war of their own, and that war was leaking into our world, a world of the 22nd century, which had tensions and war and stuff. And so, if we're trying to nail these plots of, economic disparity and inhumanity to man and all the political problems that we have, will that relate to whatever this outside force is? Is Orla Brady, from the future or from another race? I don't know. Guinan has this really weird kind of pat answer, which is just like, oh, they just kind of set themselves up and they're kind of around and they think that they're really great. And it's like, okay. Can you go get your thesaurus? Go watch. Synonyms for watch that aren't trademarked by Marvel Comics. And just find some other word for like what a watcher is. I mean, I guess a guardian is a watcher. Who guards the guardians? I don't know. Do you ever feel like you've absorbed too much sci-fi? It's just time to go lie down.
All the time. I get that feeling all the time.
You have a horrible future ahead of you. If you feel that way now at your age.
Always.
Yeah, I feel that way right now. Anything else about this episode or about the series?
We haven't talked about Agnes.
No, we should. Do you think, here's a fan theory that I've heard, that the hooded figure who appears in the first episode on the bridge of the Stargazer is Agnes from the future, who has become Borgified?
Shut up, because during this episode, I was like, I have a great tinfoil hat theory to go on the podcast and say, and you know what I was going to say?
Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, Agnes becomes the Borg Queen, and she comes back. Wait, there was a second part to it, but I forgot it.
Oh, no. I stole the first part and you forgot the second.
I was going to say Agnes. I was going to say Agnes becomes the Borg Queen, and then in the future, the Borg do join Starfleet because Agnes is the head honcho.
Oh, so what she's doing when she takes over the ship. So she has
to, in the future, when the Borg come and snatch Picard, she has to do that. Otherwise, she would never connect with the Borg Queen and assimilate and become.
Oh, you're saying
that Queen.
That Agnes is every Borg Queen. That she is Susanna Thompson Borg Queen. She's Alice Krieg Borg Queen. Like she is whatever the entity. That wasn't
what I was saying, but I would buy into it. So I was thinking she takes over.
You're saying it's the longest game ever. Them abducting Picard as Locutus.
Yeah.
That this is all part of them. Throughout time, redeeming the Borg so that they can one day that's a lot of tinfoil. Heavy is the head that wears that tinfoil crown.
And it is, and it's got food poisoning.
I love that. It's going to take them the next 6 episodes just to explain and set that up, but I do really like that. I know.
What if I'm right? I was watching it and I was like, oh, she wants it. She wants to plug herself back in so bad.
Yeah.
And then I was like, Agnes takes over from the Borg Queen because the Borg Queen is always underestimating her, right? She gets in there, she gets the Borg Queen off her little future hamster wheel, no leg hamster wheel, okay?
Sure.
I don't know. Queen Agnes.
I think that has already been kind of seeded because, this is a very the difference between the Borg Queen and like the drones is that she's got a personality, right? But this is like a pretty avuncular Borg Queen, right? But I feel like she has become more sort of pithy and talkative since that's the Agnes in her, right? That's a line like, oh, believe me is an anagram of betrayal. Like that's something Agnes would say. So they have like affected each other.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because then Agnes was like, oh, I cut you back off. And then she walked out.
Right, yeah. Like they need, I mean, obviously the Borg Queen has an agenda, but they need they want to remerge. This is what they've formed their own collective of two.
Or Agnes could just upload her consciousness into the Borg Queen's body. And they could duke it out in there.
Like a Steve Martin
movie.
Hulk. Or like the Hulk. Well, yeah. Better.
Friday.
The Hulk. Yeah.
She trades them. Okay?
So the Borg Queen is Agnes.
Agnes goes into Borg Queen.
I will assimilate all the red velvet cake aboard this vessel. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing that as well. That's pretty much.
I want to say in my defense that I didn't see any fans saying that when I was watching the episode. That came out of my little dehydrated mind today.
Okay. Good.
Just sprung out.
I think that you're on the right wavelength. Then I did see a lot of people, positing that where am I going with this? That Orla Brady, I think they thought that like Laris would be the Watcher, but like that Orla Brady would return. And I mean, like, she's her name's in the cast list. I guess that's not too big of a coup, but yeah, it's good to have her back.
I'll just make sure to get like dehydrated and a little malnourished every Thursday from now on, and I'll start having these big brain theories.
Yeah. What do you think about the fact that Picard's ancestor also likes Dixon Hill novels? I don't know. Trek will eat itself.
Some things run in the family, okay? Do you see this puzzle back here?
I'll
tell you.
I didn't know she was a Picard.
My grandma.
Yeah. Oh, she does puzzles? I didn't know she was a Picard because she wasn't bald. Remember in Nemesis where they show us a picture of young Tom Hardy at the Academy to establish that, like, he's a clone of Picard, but he's bald for some reason? And you're like, oh, the audience wouldn't know he was Picard if he wasn't bald. Like, no, he didn't have hair when he was young. So, like, when they bring little Picard in, and she's like, oh, Jean-Luc, and he's just got a little bald, she's like, oh, all your hair is gone. Like, that's what I was thinking.
He never had hair?
Yeah, right.
He popped out. That's what they don't tell you. He popped out bald.
Right, yeah. Like Professor X.
That's why he's got that little newsboy hat on.
Actually, Professor X had hair when he was a kid, I guess, but whatever. All right. No, we saw in that Oscar Isaac movie how he lost his hair. Those movies went off the rails too. I think that's it for our show. I think that we have you covered those on Generations Geek, the X-Men films?
I want to say yes. I don't know my own podcast. I'm like, I think so.
I want you to have done them so I can hear you guys talk about Dark Phoenix, which is.
We definitely haven't talked about Dark Phoenix.
That's a low point. That's a low point. But that is
I thought it was okay.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Maybe I gotta watch it again.
Oh.
You're looking
at movies. X-Men movies.
You're reading your own press.
I am. Everyone. Yeah. Yes. We have. It's the first episode in series 3.
Oh, okay. Well, there's a commercial for that. And you've got a whole future of Marvel ones to look forward to, hopefully, Marvel Studios
I know.
films.
My whole life.
Yeah, all of our lives and our children's lives.
My whole
forever,
life so far. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to fight against the future and stop the show for this week, but thanks for joining us, listeners. And if you like what you hear, you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter at EISTpod to get updates and get notified when new episodes of both this show, Discoverage, and our main show, Enterprising Individuals, get released. You can tweet to us on the show by using the hashtag Discoverage or email us at EISTpod@gmail.com. And while you're on the internet, why not head to your listening platform of choice, subscribe to our show, give us a rating and a review, because it really does help us out. If you like the show, tell a friend. Discoverage will return on March 31st at 8 p.m. for the 5th episode of Star Trek Picard's second season. We don't know anything about the episode yet. We've got some theories, but we'll be here next Thursday to cover it. We'll be going live once again at 8 p.m. Central, so join us. You can follow us on Twitter or Facebook at EISTpod to get notified when we are live and broadcasting. In the meantime, why not check out our main show, Enterprising Individuals, at enterprisingindividuals.com. Every Wednesday in the show, I and a special guest discuss in excruciating detail a selected episode from a Star Trek series, although this year we are covering the Star Trek films, and we have covered Star Trek The Motion Picture and Star Trek II The Wrath of Khan, and next week we're talking about The Search for Spock. I'm talking about The Search for Spock with friend of the show and author David Mack, so join us for that. But this week we're on hiatus, so I would suggest instead that you check out our sister podcast. It's a show called Backtrekking, and on it, I and my co-host Gooey Fame discuss in excruciating detail the real-world inspirations behind your favorite episodes of Star Trek. Our most recent episode just dropped, and on it we are comparing the Star Trek Voyager episode Night with the 2018 Swedish sci-fi film Aniara, which is based on an epic poem from 1956. Now, if that sounds dry, let me just say that the film takes place on a spaceship that is rocketing irreversibly out of our solar system on a course to oblivion, taking its crew and passengers through the void of space to a fate so tragic it makes an AI commit suicide. But other than that, 4 out of 5 stars. And you can find that, our show, Backtrekking, at Backtrekking on Twitter or wherever you get your podcasts. Ella, thanks as always for joining me to talk about Star Trek and Star Trek Picard. Where can people find you online?
My podcast is called Generations Geek. I do it with my dad. I've been saying everyone needs to tweet at my dad, tell him to watch Twilight. Because what did people want more than to hear like a middle-aged Star Trek author and editor, film fanatic give his thoughts on Twilight?
Right.
And I think the world needs it. We have a Spider-Man episode. We have an X-Men episode.
Nice.
We've got it all.
Awesome. So, go to generationsgeek.com and find that. You can find all the shows on the Just Enough Trope Network at Just Enough Trope on Twitter, and I am at KA1IBAN on Twitter. And that is it for us. Thanks for listening, everybody. We are signing off. This is Aaron for Ella saying, live long and prosper.